I've been playing Aion for over 14 years, so when Aion 2 finally dropped, I was genuinely excited to jump in. But the first week, yeah, man, it was rough. Crashes, disconnects, queues, servers literally falling apart. It felt like every time I tried to play the game, it flipped a coin on whether or not it would let me in. And despite all of that, we still managed to actually play the game and see what it had to offer. And that's what makes this so frustrating, because underneath the instability and the monetization that immediately rubbed a lot of players the wrong way, there is a solid MMO here. The world, the atmosphere, the music, the combat, there is something genuinely special, but it under what's essentially a poor monetization choice. But if NCSoft wants Aion 2 to have a real shot in the West, there are issues they cannot afford to ignore. So in today's video, I want to break down what the game does well, what it completely misses the mark, and what absolutely needs to change before the global release. Let's dive in. Most of us could agree that the excitement behind the Aion 2 release was very real. All the new Aion fans alike were genuinely curious what NCSoft's next-gen MMO was shaping up to be. With every dev livestream, that excitement kept building until, well, it didn't. Because the moment the Korean devs revealed the monetization model, that excitement hit a brick wall. Despite all of that, I still decided to give the game a proper chance. As an Aion 1 player, I've been waiting for a sequel for almost a decade, and I wanted to see how Aion 2 feels running on Unreal Engine 5. After 14 years as an Ilios, this time I decided to create an Asmodean just to spice things up a little. And yeah, I kind of regret that now because I missed on a bunch of Ilios related Easter eggs, so yeah, for global, I'm definitely going Ilios. The leveling experience is pretty straightforward and is nothing MMO fans haven't seen over the past 10 years. Talk to NPCs, kill mobs, collect items, rinse and repeat, you know the drill. But the cinematics are genuinely well done and they add a lot to the story, and the voice acting is surprisingly solid. Even if you're not into the game's lore, I'm sure you'll appreciate them. As for Aion 2's world, Atrea looks absolutely incredible. My gosh. The environment, the sound design, the music, they're genuinely impressive. Especially the soundtrack, which feels like a modern interpretation of the original Aion themes. It hits the right notes of nostalgia in every possible way. I know graphics alone don't make a good game, but they absolutely help set the mood. And while there aren't many Unreal Engine 5 MMOs out there right now, Aion 2 is easily the top contender when it comes to visuals. Similar to other players, the auto-pathing feature is something I have mixed feelings about. On one hand, it is convenient and it speeds things up. On the other hand, it removes any sense of discovery. If you don't know where an NPC or a mob is, the game literally just walks you straight to it. I know other games do it, it is convenient, but you know, different people have different opinions on it. I personally don't mind it as much. I know some people do mind it, but you know, it is what it is. When it comes to the game's content, there's plenty to do actually, like killing mobs to unlock them as pets and mounts, which I have to admit is one of the coolest mount systems I've seen in quite a while. Finding hidden cubes for extra loot, gathering materials for crafting with small chances at skin bundles, running hidden dungeons for upgrade materials, there's an achievement system, open road bosses, and of course PvP. All schooled Aion players will be happy to know that rifting is back, and for those of you that don't know, rifting is a system which allows you to invade the territory of the enemy faction. The issue with that is though that it only gives you about an hour before the game kicks you out automatically, and then you have to wait for a few hours until the next respawn. It's a system that already went through 2 changes, mostly related to how long players can rift for, with the time fluctuating between 30 minutes and an hour. With the developers also considering a flag-based PvP mode, if griefing becomes a problem. They even implemented a restriction where you can't attack players that are 5 level lower than you, and vice versa. In addition to Abyss point gain, scaling with your gear score, this will essentially prevent people from AP trading on ults and also griefing lobbies. And then there's the Abyss, where you farm AP from mobs and players, although it is time gated at 7 hours a week, and it's kinda similar to how Nebula Island functions in Throne and Liberty. There is quite a variety of co-op content as well included in the game, such as expeditions, conquests, which are harder versions of the expeditions but with better loot, transcendence dungeons, subjugations, which are group PvE missions, and for the PvP enjoyers, arenas and battlegrounds. I do have an important clarification though. The energy system, or the so-called dungeon tokens, are not a requirement for you to enter the dungeon. You can run dungeons as many times as you want, and tokens are only used for the final boss chest. You can farm trash mobs and mini bosses for Kina and enchantment stones pretty much indefinitely. Personally, I am not the biggest fan of time-gated systems. Developers always justify their existence as preventing burnout, but more often than not, these systems create burnout because players feel pressure to use every token so they don't fall behind. Life scaling in Aion 2 is pretty similar to that of the original game, and crafting is actually quite important because not only does your best gear come from crafting, but professions like alchemy can help you generate a solid amount of kina by selling consumables on the auction house. Now, the combat is actually one of the game's strongest points. Even people who dislike Aion 2 for other reasons tend to agree that the combat is pretty solid. To be entirely honest, Aion 2's combat feels closer to Blade and Soul than Aion 1. If you imagine Blade and Soul on Unreal Engine 5 with flight mechanics, you're not going to be too far off. Essentially, you have 12 abilities on your hotbar, but with the added chains and conditional abilities, that increases your character's toolkit to around 20 skills depending on your class. You upgrade those skills with skill points and Deva points, I'll call them DP for short, which gives stats like crit, HP, attack speed, defense, and also help you level up your abilities. DP comes from side content, hidden dungeons, quests, etc, etc. Once your abilities reach a certain level, you unlock different specializations like extra skill chains, added effects, more utility, and some specializations even remove the movement lock on certain skills. Weaving or animation cancelling is also more similar to Blade and Soul. In Aion 1, you'd use your skills to cancel your auto attacks for extra DPS. In Aion 2, you use auto attacks to restore mana and stamina, which is closer to Blade and Soul's focus system. Gear progression in Aion 2 is fairly similar to that of the original game, but with quite a few significant improvements. For example, enchanting your gear up to level 10 is a guaranteed success, and going from plus 11 to plus 15 has a lower chance to succeed. However, due to PT systems, with every fail, your chance of succeeding actually, increases. When it comes to the new mana stone systems though, I do have a mixed feeling about it, because engraving mana stones always succeeds, it doesn't really fail, but the stats you get are random, so you end up rerolling until you get something usable. Pretty much every system in the game is tailored towards making your character stronger, whether it's wings, mounts, collections, achievements, all have additional stats, and it's all obtainable in-game. Unfortunately, I didn't do much PvP myself due to the connectivity issues on the Taiwan server, so I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on the subject matter. However, from what I've seen, early game balance issues exist, but that's to be expected, and the dev said they will be adjusting things as players progress further. So, all that being said, why is the game receiving so much hate? On paper, Aion 2 offers a lot of what MMO players look for: exploration, life skilling, solo and group PvE, ranked systems, various PvP modes, visuals, cosmetics, but it also includes systems that immediately turn people away. The biggest one is the game's mobile influence. Even though the devs insist the game was developed with PC players as a priority, it's hard to deny the mobile design choices, especially when it comes to the user interface. Don't get me wrong, the game does play like a PC MMO when it comes to the actual content and combat. What I'm referring to is the various game systems and elements. For example, visually, the user interface is fine. Minimalistic, modern, pretty much what most MMOs have been doing over the past few years. Functionally, however, it is kinda rough. Dragging up and down to enable auto-use on consumables, no drag and drop for skills or inventory items, too many taps for actions that normally takes 2 clicks in other PC games. These aren't game-breaking issues, but they do affect how the game feels. The good news is, the devs have already confirmed that a dedicated PC UI is currently in development, so we no longer have to suffer through the current mobile interaction issues. And now, of course, the biggest issue, demonetization and the levels of pay to win. Even though Aion 2 is marketed as a free-to-play game, it is essentially a subscription-based one. This is very similar to how Aion Classic works with the Seal's energy system, although not as restrictive. Before Aion 2's business model was announced, players were hoping for either a buy-to-play structure or a straightforward subscription model with a cosmetic shop. Ironically, now the players are complaining about the subscription element because it restricts their access to the marketplace, which effectively turns the game into a subscription MMO. That leads to a simple question: is Aion 2 actually free to play, or is it a subscription-based game? The fact that there are two subscriptions, two battle passes on top of a currency exchange system, Kuna to Kina and vice versa, does not help the game's public perception. The only reason players usually accept a currency exchange system is because it allows free-to-play players access the same premium features that paid players have access to. That is not the case in Aion 2 because paying for Kuna to buy Kina gives you more benefits than doing the opposite, especially since Kina is actually quite important when it comes to gear progression. For example, a swiper get access to the marketplace, the currency exchange system, both battle passes, additional dungeon runs, double the amount of time in the abyss, I'm running out of fingers, Kina, which can significantly speed up progression. A free-to-play player has to buy one of the subscriptions first in order to access the marketplace. Only then can they convert their Kina to Kuna and unlock the two battle passes and a few skins. The subscriptions are not currently purchasable with Kuna, and even if they were, a free-to-play player would not have access to the marketplace to make the exchange in the first place. With all of this being said, the benefits of a swiper far outweigh the benefits of a free-to-play player in a game that is being presented as free-to-play. Now, free-to-play players can catch up if they play the game, but I just wanted to highlight some of the current monetization issues. When you add that to the negative associations with crossplay on mobile, as well as the various optimization issues as a result of it, game performance, UI, energy system, you can see why the Western market is less enthusiastic about what is essentially a pretty good game. Don't get me wrong, I love the game and I'm genuinely having fun with it, even though playing on 200 ms makes me want to step on a Lego sometimes. But that's only because I've been playing NCSoft games for pretty much 20 years and have been conditioned to ignore most of the above mentioned issues. If NCSoft truly wishes Aion 2 to succeed in the West and secure a fair chunk of the MMO market share, there's quite a bit of work left to be done when it comes to the monetization. To be fair, the devs have been responding quickly. The latest Korean livestream covered a merged auction house between servers, potential server transfers, additional performance and optimization works, a proper PC UI, adjustment to the PvP modes, class balances, and a bunch of other quality of life changes related to the camera, player interactions, as well as various skill and stat presets. It seems that NCSoft genuinely wants the game to last. There is no denying that NCSoft is in a rough spot right now because since the game release, their stocks dropped by around 20%. And the player's trust has been rapidly declining. If they don't address these issues before the global release of Aion 2, the game risks repeating the same fate as Throne and Liberty and Blade and Soul Neo. Now, I'm sitting here surrounded by high doses of copium, and I'm going to say this. Aion 2 has a lot of potential and there are things to be excited for. The foundation is genuinely solid and the game can be fun, but the monetization, mobile limitations, clunky UI, and the time-gated content hold it back from reaching its full potentials as a pretty solid MMO. If NCSoft fixes these problems before the global release, Aion 2 has a real shot in the West. If they don't, we already know how that story ends. Either way, I'll be here covering it, as someone who's been part of Aion's journey for the last 14 years, once again, hoping they get it right this time. But enough about me. I'm actually curious to know what your experience was during the first week. What are some of the things that genuinely made an impression on you, and what are some of the things that you really hated about the game? Drop that down in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.